Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. As always, thank you for joining me. If you could, hit that subscribe button down below and let's get right to it. Now, yesterday we had the passing of one of the most brilliant minds pretty much ever in the mind of Stephen Hawking, at least in modern times anyway. Stephen Hawking died yesterday at the age of 76. Of course, Stephen Hawking had suffered from ALS for pretty much forever, since about the time he was 21 years old. And he was given like 2 years to live at 21 years old. And the man persisted. I don't know how, because most people that have ALS do not survive very long. But this man was able to push for years and decades until he was 76 years old. As somebody who has muscular dystrophy himself, he was very much an inspiration to me. I may not have been able to have the intelligence or the affinity for natural sciences. But the one thing that I learned from watching Stephen Hawking was no matter what your disability is, no matter what problems you have, you must persist, you must continue. And that is what I learned from Stephen Hawking, aside from all the other science and stuff that he has done. His work on black holes is just, bar none. You know, and he was an amazing physicist. He was amazing at science. He was an amazing mathematician. And sure, there's a lot of things he said and a lot of stuff that, he put out that a lot of people didn't support. But a lot of it seems to have turned out to be somewhat true. And so, say what you want about Stephen Hawking. All I know is the man could have given up. When he was 21 years old and diagnosed with ALS, he could have said, screw it, I'm done. I quit. But he didn't. He didn't quit. In the face of what appeared to be certain death, the man persisted, the man continued. And the man continued to be a force in the scientific world until his death. I find that to be absolutely amazing that he was able to fight off ALS for so long. Now, in the reports that I've read, I don't know the cause of death or anything, but who knows I guess we may never know what the cause of death was. It could be kept private. You never know. But to see a brilliant mind, a brilliant light, go out like that, so after so long, it's sad. It's sad to see, but also at the same time, there means no more pain and no more dealing with whatever complications he may have had from the ALS. So, to Stephen Hawking, thank you for all your work. You'll be missed among the scientific community, I'm sure, and those of us that just love to hear about scientific stuff, whether we understand it or not. You'll be missed. And I always look forward to hearing stuff that he would put out and things like that, just because it was interesting to hear what he had to say. Like, I didn't quite buy his whole argument that robots are going to kill mankind, but we'll see. But it was interesting to hear because it gave me a different viewpoint, a different point to look from at sad times. So rest in peace, Stephen Hawking, and thanks for all the stuff you've done here on Earth to help the people. To help the scientific community, and especially your work with black holes. Thank you for all that. And that'll take me to my next bit of the story today. Moving on from the sadder story of the death of Stephen Hawking to news out of the Pennsylvania 18th District House District, where there was a campaign, a special election anyway, between Democratic Connor Lamb, I believe his name was, Connor Lamb, and Rick Sarconi, I believe. They are locked neck and neck as of the last count. They are like within hundreds of votes away from each other. Connor Lamb, of course, is the Democrat. Right now, it's being projected by some that he is the winner. CNN hasn't, but others have declared him the winner based on the counting of some absentee votes and everything. According to Steve Kornacki, they were up to letter S in the alphabetical recount. Basically, they do everything. Apparently, they go in that county. They go everywhere from A to Z, and so they're in letter S, and that was as of about almost 3 hours ago now. But it's been reported that Steve Lamb is the likely winner of the special election. There will be no, because it's not a statewide race. The people in Pennsylvania say that there will be no runoff election or anything for the seat. So it appears that Democrat Connor Lamb, apparently a retired Marine, will win the seat in the Pennsylvania 18th District. Now, this is a big shock for a lot of Republicans, and especially for Donald Trump, who carried this exact district by a 20-point margin over Hillary Clinton. As with a lot of the special elections that have been held over the last few months, especially since Donald Trump took office last year, some of them have been lost by Republicans in very red districts. Now, this is probably just a passing thing, because a lot of people are really upset with the things Donald Trump has done. And I think, even though Connor Lamb says that this isn't about Donald Trump, people, it's about Donald Trump. There's a reason people are talking about the possible blue wave or blue tsunami coming in 2018, later this year in November. Now, personally, I don't believe this to be the case. I don't believe there's a blue tsunami coming. I don't think we're going to see an election like we did in 2010 with the Tea Party coming to power. I don't see the equivalent happening on the liberal side or the Democratic side of life. I don't see Democrats really showing up as much as they're claiming they're going to show up in 2018. Because if they were going to show up in 2018, where the hell were they in 2016? That's right, they stayed home. And we ended up getting Donald Trump because they stayed home. At least in certain states. Now, this is, I think, a good thing. It's going to help, I think, Democrats may be able to do a little bit more in Congress if Connor Lamb holds off and pulls off this win. I think it'll be good, at least for his term. I'm pretty sure, much like the seat that Roy Moore tried to take, that the Democrat won, Jeff Sessions' old seat in the Senate, I'm sure it'll go back to being a Republican seat by 2020. But that's what we have going on right now. I believe that'll be I believe that this hype about a blue wave or blue tsunami, I believe it's much overhyped. I don't believe it's going to happen. I guess I'm a little negative here, maybe a little cynical, because of how midterm elections have gone for me in the past. Every time that I have gone out and been all gung-ho about a midterm election, my people have all lost. Every single one of them that I have supported. So my hopes for this midterm election are not very high. And part of that, I think, is because we're in a post-truth society now, it seems like, especially politically. People don't give a damn about the truth. They take whatever you tell them. And a lot of people are like that. They don't research. They don't do any looking up anything. They just let it go. They don't care what it is. They go vote based on what lies they've been told, and that's that. I do my best. I still try to vote for the best person possible. Now, I vote for a lot of people on the left. I'll admit that, but I have been known to vote for conservative folks depending on their views, mostly statewide here in Texas. But it depends on what their views on things. Sometimes I have to be able to agree with something before I can vote for somebody. So there's that. But I just don't feel very confident that the supposed blue wave is coming. I mean, these races are running extremely tight. I know this is a very strong, Republican district, very red district. But look how close it is. Look how close the Roy Moore one was. If people were really that overwhelmingly against Trump and against what's going on in this country right now, I think these would be white. They would be they'd be solid blue. There'd be no fight. But from what I'm hearing, there are other weak districts out there that Democrats could easily take. I don't know if we're going to sweep to power and take the Senate, but maybe they'll get lucky and get at least get the Senate or at least get the House one. Um, More likely, I think the Senate than the House because there's just so much uphill you have to get on that. But we'll see. Like I said, I don't believe that there's a blue wave or blue tsunami coming this November. I don't buy it. I don't believe liberals will show up to vote. But anyhow, that's what's going on in that election. Apparently, the Democrat Connor Lamb is looking like he will win the election. Anything's possible, though, during the recount. They could find some errors that they've done and things like that. You never know what could happen. And this takes me to the very last thing. Have y'all seen that picture going around of Joe Biden talking to the homeless man outside a movie theater? I think it's really awesome that, he did this even when he didn't know anyone was looking, apparently. Apparently this guy just walked up and saw Joe Biden talking to this guy and snapped a picture. And Joe Biden was talking to a homeless man that he had seen, I guess, outside the movie theater. He had gone to the movie theater with his granddaughter, and he stopped and gave a note to this guy and had a conversation with the guy. And a lot of people are really high on it. I think it's really great that he did this. A lot of people, though, are going to be negative and say, oh, he's just doing it for publicity. We don't even know if the guy's running for office. The man's just, from what I've heard over the years, Joe Biden is just a good guy. Whether or not you think it's creepy that he hugs people, that he talks to or whatever, that's whatever. If you don't like his politics, that's great. Whatever. That, to each his own. But you have to admit that this man taking time out of his life, he had no reason to have to sit there to take time out of his life to talk to anybody, let alone a homeless man. And homeless people, by the way, folks, just to be clear, most people that are homeless don't want to be homeless. They didn't put themselves there on purpose. A lot of you out there will sit there and say, oh, homeless people are just lazy, this and that. But most of those people aren't lazy. Most people that are homeless because they couldn't find work. Not because they didn't want to work, but because no one would hire them. Or they went bankrupt and they lost their home abruptly, and they couldn't get to work. Things like that. If all of a sudden you lose your home and you're homeless and you're coming to work smelling, you're going to lose your job. And if you can't get a good hot shower and stuff like that, you're not going to keep your job very long. And then if you can't replace your job, you're definitely going to stay homeless. It's just it's a domino effect. One thing can lead you down that path. So don't think just because you're well off right now that you can't be homeless, in a year, 2 years, 5 years. It can happen. You can find yourself in a bad spot. But back to Joe Biden. This is things that I've read that he's done throughout the years. He talks to people. It's what he does. He's a people person. He cares about his fellow Americans. And he even mentioned, talking about the homeless, at a speech he gave a few days after he met this guy. That we need to do, that it's sad that this day and age we have so many homeless Americans, and we have to do more for them. Some of them are veterans, some of them are retired police officers, some of them are just down on their luck. They've just had a bad run of luck. And to sit there and have some people sit there and act like, oh, they're lazy, they don't deserve help, you're full of shit. Don't call yourself a Christian if you're going to sit there and put down homeless people. They're not there on purpose. They didn't purposely put themselves on the streets. Nobody would willingly put themselves on the streets. So the next time you see somebody panhandling or out there with a cup, begging for change, most of them are just trying to find food. They're not looking for booze. They're not looking for their next hit. They're just looking for food. So my suggestion is help them. If you don't feel safe giving them money because you're scared of something they may do, that they may go do something else with it, go get them a Big Mac if you want to, and hand it, give it to them. If you have a job opportunity, if you see somebody that you see out there and you think maybe, hey, of a place that does temp work, or other things like that may hire them. Give them the information. Let them know. They may not have access to that information. Don't just put them down. Don't just insult them and walk over them like they're garbage. They're not. They're human beings. And I'm glad somebody out there like Joe Biden sees them as human beings and not as just pieces of garbage. Because they're human beings. They are not trash. So, people, just treat each other kindly. As Ellen always says, be kind to one another. That's all it takes. And we could help a lot of these homeless people out. And we could get a lot of people off the streets and in homes. And I've made blog posts, and I've talked about it on here on this channel before, about things we could do to help homeless people not be homeless anymore. And one of those things that I've seen that could be done is taking these abandoned malls that no one's using and turn them into big homeless shelters. And you could even line some work, some jobs up in there for them. You could find a way to, maybe you could convince other businesses to come back if you're going to have all these people living in parts of the building. If nothing else, you could have a soup kitchen up in one, you could take the bottom, say you've got a bottom, say it's a one-story mall. You could take the bottom half, you could take one area of it and turn it into a living quarters. And then turn the commissary area, the area where you go and get your, the food court, I guess. You could turn that into a soup kitchen of some sort to help feed them. You could do stuff like that. That's things you could do. I had an idea for homeless veterans. All these houses that have been foreclosed since 2008 that are still sitting there vacant. Let our veterans get into some of those. Just different ideas we could do. Now, y'all have a great day. I'll see you down the road. I don't know if there'll be a video up tomorrow or Friday, but I will be right back at you on Saturday. Sorry if this video is not very upbeat, but with me being tired and kind of just sad to see the passing of Stephen Hawking, I guess I may be a little more mellow than even normal. Anyhow, y'all have a great day. I'll see you down the road. Please hit that subscribe button and come back for more.